Here we go. So hi, Senator. It's great to see you as usual. And we're here with the wonderful, great State Senator Robert Singer here in the Great Garden State. And I'm Doug Johnston, Governmental Affairs Manager for AARP here in New Jersey. And Senator, it's really good to see you as always. You've been a big friend of AARP for many years. I've worked on a lot of issues together. Probably you were one of the first legislators I worked with when I came here 16 years ago, because you've been in a few years, right?
Well, Doug, you're a young tyke when you came here, right? So was I.
Apparently so, that's right. That's how it feels when I look in the mirror. I was like, I used to be so young. But we appreciate you taking some time to talk to AARP members on Facebook. We are reaching out to AARP members on Facebook. We have over 100,000 folks on Facebook who follow AARP New Jersey. So we want to share some good news with them. But first, I wanted to ask you to introduce yourself, if you could, a little bit about yourself and your legislative district for those viewing this video on Facebook who maybe don't know you, maybe don't even live in your district, but if you don't mind.
Well, I'm Robert Singer. I represent the 30th Legislative District, which is parts of Ocean and Monmouth County, 2 towns in Ocean and 11 towns in Monmouth County. A good portion of the district is Shore Region, Belmar, Brielle, Spring Lake, things
Beautiful
like that.
Area.
Absolutely gorgeous area, and therefore, you know, had concerns with Sandy rebuilding, things along those lines involved in that, and therefore, as a Shore legislator, very environmentally sensitive. And of course, we have the farmland areas in Wall and in Howell, and certainly the cosmopolitan part of Lakewood, which is high-density type of situation. I've been in the legislature a long time. I'm the conference chairman, which means I present the bills and go over the bills with the conference before every voting session. I'm the ranking Republican on the Senate Health and Human Services and Senior Citizen Committee.
Very important committee to AARP issues.
Absolutely, deal with those issues. And I sit on higher ed, which deals, of course, with our young people and their futures. So those are some of my important issues. Aside from that, I have 4 children. My youngest is a freshman at Penn State.
Awesome.
We are Penn State. We just was up there for the Ohio State game where Penn State won. That was pretty exciting. And of course, I have 3 grandchildren. And with 3 daughters and 1 son, I never win an argument. But
that's why you're in politics, right? Because you always win the argument well.
That's true. and from a professional standpoint, I'm the vice president of Lakeland Bank, which is the 4th largest state bank in New Jersey.
I didn't know that about you.
Yes, so I deal with commerce, I deal with commercial loans, and I'm really understanding the economy a little bit because it affects my customers and affects my business.
That's great. Well, thank you, Senator Singer. We're here to talk about taxes, a very important issue to people. New Jersey is considered a high-cost state, and we know part of that is tax-related issues. But we think we have some good news about what's happening. Governor Christie recently signed a bill dealing with tax issues, including some very significant reforms that AARP supported. AARP supported targeted income tax relief for retirees. And so I think we have some good news to share. And you were one of the people who voted for that and supported it. We thank you. AARP thanks you for that, Senator Singer. But could you give us the good news, the details about what is happening tax-wise?
There is some good news, and that's one reason why I supported the bill. AARP supported the bill for those reasons, and we were all coming together on some important issues about helping seniors stay in New Jersey. And that's an important aspect.
It really is. I have personal friends. Moving on.
Absolutely. And there really were 4 issues that directly affect seniors in their pocketbook. The first issue, and probably the largest portion of it, was the deduction of income from the state income tax. It goes up to $100,000.
Now that's not a tax increase. No. It's a deduction, an exemption on your income taxes.
And that does not include your Social Security. So in essence, before that, it was $20,000. So now it's going up to $100,000. What does that mean to someone? That means if the average income is around $72,000, that's an $1,800 savings. If it's a full $100,000, it's over $2,000 savings in taxes that they will not have to pay. That's dollars in their pocketbook. And that's an important aspect. It's a lot of money.
And that's good news because we know a lot of people, once they retire, they move on. They move to Florida or other places where they don't have these. And isn't it true, Senator, that before this law was signed, that you supported and Governor Christie signed, New Jersey taxed more retirement income than I think any other state. I mean, we're increasing it fivefold the exemption from income tax. Is that right?
Exactly right. And think about this as one aspect of it. It is not cheap to be retired. You still have to pay all your other expenses. So it really helps keep people in New Jersey, bringing it up to $100,000. So that's one aspect of the bill. It was the largest portion of the bill that saved the most amount. But there's some other things too. We created the veterans deduction of $3,000. If you're a veteran, any age, by the way, you're
any age veteran,
right? You get a $3,000 deduction, which represents $100. So, good news is, if you're a senior, there's an additional $100 of savings. If you're a non-senior, you get that also. But it's kind of a way of saying to our veterans and a lot of our seniors, we have the largest contingent of seniors in Ocean County, of veterans in the entire state. It's really saying thank you for the service that you've done for your country and to us as citizens of the state of New Jersey.
That sounds like more good news. So we're helping veterans, we're helping retirees with this new bill or new law. That's fantastic news. And do those things, and I know you said there were 4 things, and I just let you get to 2, but I wanted to ask you, by reducing the taxation on retirement income, which this new law does tremendously, increases it fivefold. It's a cut, basically a fivefold cut. How does that help New Jersey in general? Is that good for the economy, or what do you anticipate?
Well, it's good for the economy for 2 reasons. Seniors represent a very large portion of our economy and a good portion of our economy. Number one is they use the least amount of services. So very honestly, to help stabilize a state, we need seniors to stay here. Second of all, their volunteerism statewide is phenomenal. I cannot go to any nonprofit organization, whether it's hospitals, whether it's groups that work with the underserved, underprivileged, whether it's Red Cross or the Salvation Army or anything else, the food banks, who is the number one group that volunteers their time and gives literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to these organizations of free help. It's the senior population. So retaining the seniors is good for business because they require services, they purchase services within the state, they spend money within the state. Number 2, they stabilize the state because they don't use a lot of services. And number 3, they help the state out by volunteering for a lot of organizations. So seniors play an integrated role of where New Jersey is going and keeping us on the right road. And we got to keep them in New Jersey, and that's important to us.
And that's good for AARP, and it's important to AARP as well. So we're helping retirees and veterans, and you said there were 2 other key points you wanted to mention.
One other point is we reduced the sales tax. Now it's a small amount. But what does that mean? In the average family spending, about 20% of your purchases are sales taxable, paper goods, things along that line. So unless you have a big ticket item, like if you bought a $30,000 car this year, you'd save about $120 in sales tax. The average senior will probably save about $54 a year in sales tax. But again, it's $54 in your pocket, better your pocket than the government's pocket. So that's another added attraction to the legislation that said there's an additional $54 you'll have as opposed to paying in taxes. And the last part, which is a separate issue, and to me, an issue that's very, very important, and that was the elimination of the so-called death tax. As you know, the federal government starts charging you after $5 million. The state of New Jersey had $675,000, so you kind of were paying a double tax. You paid a state tax if you passed away, not to your spouse, but to your children, your grandchildren, and then you paid, if it was up to over $5 million, you paid that to the federal government. Most people don't make the $5 million. The problem was that once you hit over $675,000, it goes back down to $1. So let's say, for argument's sake, the average estate, which they did an average, is about $725,000. And let's understand what that makes up. Any home or property you own, cars, jewelry, stock, 401k, that's all part of that estate factor. So it's not so unrealistic to make over $675,000 in your estate just from those factors being put together. That would cost your heirs about $20,000 if your estate was worth a little over $700,000. That they'd have to pay the state of New Jersey on money that you earned that you wanted to give to your children or your grandchildren or whoever you wanted to do. By the passage of this bill over a 2-year period, we're going to eliminate that totally. So in essence, you're not going to be your state is not going to be taxed in the state of New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and in most cases nobody will reach the federal limits. So what was happening is accountants statewide were saying to people that had wealth of any type, once you reach your senior years, move out of New Jersey if you want to save money for your estate. And we were finding a loss of wealth in our state, of the wealthiest people moving out. Now you say to yourself, well, the wealthiest moving out, what does that mean? They were the largest taxpayers. So there was a wealth movement that was costing the state millions and millions of dollars of lost revenue. That's not going to happen anymore. Because now there isn't any difference whether I move here or I move to Florida when it deals with my estate. And that was a basic thing which said the wealthy will stay in state, which will all help us out in economics of it, but also for the senior that's not wealthy, but has accumulated a certain amount of money they want to give to their children or their grandchildren or anybody. They're not going to be double taxed again. They were taxed when they made the money, and then they're taxed when they give the money away. It just was unfair, and that elimination is really, I think, a positive thing. So if you take a look at those four things, and three of them, of course, and I know the estate tax was not an AARP issue, but it was an issue for us in the state because of losing people, leaving the state. I think there are a lot of benefits, dollars and cents wise, we estimate about 85% of the seniors statewide gain substantially from this legislation and the savings they have.
Wow, that's a lot of cutting. One other part of the bill that was signed and that you supported was an increase in the so-called earned income tax credit, which AARP did support that part of the bill, and we're glad we did, because we believe it's going to put about $130 in the pockets of average or low income working families, not just seniors. So this bill is going to help a lot of people, veterans, retirees, people who are beneficiaries of estates, and low income working families, regardless of age.
That was a positive part. It went from 30 to 35%. You're right. It gives a bigger deduction. We said it's the average family will save about $125 on that. Again, those are savings in people's pocket. You know, we always talk about what is $125, what's $54. Every cent that's in your pocket that's not in government is a major savings. It's a savings to you, and very honestly, it makes government more efficient. We have to use the dollars we have more wisely. And I like that aspect of things. I like holding people's feet to the fire and say, use the money wisely. It's our money, not your money. It's our money. We're paying into it. Use it wisely. And I think the major factor in the push of this bill was we are helping seniors to stay in state. Think about one thing. It's important in your older years that, and I'm a member of AARP and I'm a senior, that you want to be close to your family. Your kids may be here, your grandkids may be here, and even though you might go to a warmer climate during the colder parts of the year, really 75-80% of the year you'd like to be here where your friends and families are. We were having people making tough decisions. Can I afford to stay here? Look at the money that I have to pay out. When you're talking about $2,000 a year plus, that's big dollars.
Oh yeah, that adds up.
And you're talking about life-changing dollars to a lot of people in the end of the day, and we want to make sure they stay in New Jersey, they're able to be here with their families, and have that quality of life that they wanted to have in their senior years. And as I said, I think the parts of this bill absolutely help seniors remain here in New Jersey, enjoy their lifestyle and quality of life here, and the fact that AARP supported it, to me, is the stamp of approval. You know, like the good seal. When AARP says that something makes good sense, all of us in Trenton have to sit up and take a look at it, because you have the interest of seniors as number one. You don't have the interest of government. You don't have you're not a special interest group. You're really truly looking at the quality of life of seniors within the state, whether they're AARP members or not. You look at their quality, just like you supported a bill that basically the earned income thing is really more for families. You support it because it's good for families, and I think that's the nice part of AARP. They're not just provincial state. There has to be a senior. They look for the overall factor of how does it help the community as a whole. We want it to help seniors. We also want it to help families. We're part of a community, and that's a very positive thing, and why I've always supported AARP, and I think do a great job both in the state and nationally.
Well, thank you, Senator Singer. We appreciate that at AARP. AARP does have a rather broad agenda designed to try to improve the quality of life for everyone in the Great Garden State. And we love New Jersey, and we do think it's an admirable goal to encourage people to stay in New Jersey.